Thank you very much. Hey, thanks for the coverage on the deal. Hey, hi.
Party.
Hey, these are not leftovers, are they? Hey, they're not leftovers, are they?
Are those leftovers?
They're not the leftover ones that
Thank you.
We got our little contest. How about a council canteen eating contest?
Oh, that would be
with
fun.
the mayor in there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready, guys? So. Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the Board of Health meeting to order first and take care of that business, and then we'll move into the regular city council meeting. I didn't remind you to please turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate, and then I'll ask everybody to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's nice to hear those little voices out there. Chris, would you go ahead and take the roll, please?
Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Councilmember Strebe,
Here.
Councilmember Berg,
Here.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 9 on May 15th, 2018 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We'll give that to Skip.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider a condemnation of the structures on the lot located at Lot 27 in Mineral Springs Edition, 2425 East Main Street.
Good evening, Jody. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. The property at 2425 East Main Street is on your screen. It was placarded June 20th, 2017 due to dilapidation and lack of repair. The owner is Joy Howard, and she cannot repair the property. Therefore, staff is recommending condemnation and removal.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, now's the time to come to the mic. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at Lot 27 in Mineral Springs Edition, 2425 East Main Street. Order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative cost, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation, approve the condemnation of the structures located at Lot 27 in Mineral Springs Edition, 2425 East Main Street.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Motion carries. Is there any other business for the Board of Health? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
5:33. Okay, we'll move into our regular agenda but for the city council. You'll need to take the roll again, please.
Councilmember Strebe,
Here.
Councilmember Berg,
Here.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes. Here.
Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from special meeting number 18 on May 9th, 2018, regular meeting number 19 on May 15th, 2018, and special meeting number 20 on May 22nd, 2018 as presented. Resolution number 144, 2018, setting the date for a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost of the 1331 reconstruction of runway project for the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Resolution number 151, 2018, approving the contract bond and certificate of insurance for the sidewalk drop and detectable warning installation project 2018. Resolution number 156, 2018, approving the contract bond and certificate of insurance for the apron improvements project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Resolution number 152, 2018, accepting the work as final and complete for the Beach Phase 3 RFP 3X entrance sign and authorizing final payment to Nesper Sign of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the amount of $4,227.25. Cigarette permit applications for Elliott Oil Company located at Albia Road, BP, 1340 Albia Road, Jefferson Street, BP, 533 North Jefferson, North Court, BP, 1301 North Court Street, Pennsylvania and Jefferson, BP, 1147 North Jefferson, Richmond and Ferry, BP, 720 Richmond Avenue, West 2nd, BP, 1049 West 2nd, Casey's General Stores, number 7 at 1001 East Main, 1678 at 346 Richmond Avenue, 2208 at 1603 West 2nd, 1886 at 504 West Mary Street, Fairway Stores, number 648, located at 1325 Albia Road, Smokin' Hot at 2604 North Court, Suite A, Hy-Vee at 1025 North Quincy Avenue, Hy-Vee Gas at 1027 North Quincy Avenue, Hy-Vee number 2, 2453 North Court, Hy-Vee number 2 Gas at 2457 North Court, Hy-Vee Drugstore at 1140 North Jefferson. Beer and/or liquor applications for Market on Main, 331 East Main Street, extended outdoor service area for the following dates: 6/21, 7/19, 8/16, and 9/29, 2018. Applebee's located at 1303 Vaughn Drive, Front Runners at 837 Church Street, American Legion OB Nelson number 3, 550 West Main, Appanoose Rapids at 332 East Main, Jade Palace at 1404 Sherwood Drive, Ottumwa Elks Lodge, 347, temporary outdoor service area from 6/20 to 6/24, 2018 at the Jimmy Jones Shelter. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Item C in our agenda, we need approval for tonight's agenda. Is there such a motion?
Your Honor, I'd move approval of the agenda as presented with the exception of moving item H1, resolution number 142, 2018 to section I1 under item C, as item C.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Item D, we have reports from city officers, boards, commissions, and committees. I'm going to call on City Administrator Andy Morris, and we're going to adjust our schedule a little bit on that. So Andy, you have the floor.
Very well. Thank you, Mayor and Council. To that point, if you will note on the agenda, there are actually 4 items that are listed for discussion. There are 3 additional items, one of those being the Make Ottumwa Shine presentation. So as we don't hold up everyone's schedule, Mayor, I will pass it back to you and let you take care of introducing the Make Ottumwa Shine folks.
Well, at this time, I'd like to call on contract employee Jody Gates, who has worked for the city a number of years and started the Make Ottumwa Shine project and has been instrumental in continuing that project. So Jody, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I've been privileged to work with the Make Ottumwa Shine group since 2000, and it's always wonderful. Make Ottumwa Shine Week, you see the results of all the efforts that are put into sprucing up the community. And this year was no exception. We had over 150 volunteers, the lion's share of them young people from elementary school and middle school, and a lot of them are here this evening. So we have certificates for our folks who volunteered, and then anyone who doesn't receive a certificate this evening can pick them up at City Hall at a later time. So without further ado, Mayor, if you would come down, we will
think-
call some of our groups.
I would like to put this in a different order if we can. I'd like to have a formal motion recognizing the city council approving these certificates, because there were a lot of hardworking people that did this as volunteers. So
Certainly.
is there a motion to approve the certificate of appreciation for all the volunteers?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you,
Second.
Matt. Thank you, Skip. Any questions for Jody? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Unanimous, we'll start with the
Why don't we call up Scout Troop 175, those members who are here? Please come up. Okay, and we have a certificate for, and then also Madison Stalker. And we had a number of scouts that weren't able to be here this evening, but we'd like to thank them all. And I will make sure they thank you very much. The next group that we have is the Trail Life group. If the members from Trail Life could come up. Don't be shy. Okay, so. Okay. Okay, and forgive me if I mispronounce names, please. We have Theron Quick. I think he's coming. And Briley Quick. And Brandon Shoemaker. And Joshua Shoemaker. And Zachariah Shoemaker. Christopher Hauk. Jeremy Hammond. And also Reuben Hammond. And we have Chuck Quick. Timothy Shoemaker. And Randy Lean. Hopefully I said that right. Jeff Hammond. And Mandy Quick. Oh, two more? Okay.
Mandy, thank you very much for your work.
Stephen Blaine. And Elizabeth Blaine are two other members that we have. This must be Stephen. And this is Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And give them a round of applause. Great work, guys. Okay. Our next group is the American Heritage Girls Group. We have Caitlin Shoemaker first. Veronica Blaine. And Ashley Kane. And Veronique Shoemaker. And Hannah Massey. So let's give these girls a round of applause. Next, we have Wilson Elementary students. If you would please come up along with your principal, Jeff Hendred. You're going to give that to Jeff. They do a wonderful job, and they work tirelessly over a number of weeks. That's right.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the Wilson students. Okay. Our next group is the Troop 2 Boy Scout group. All right. And it looks like the first person we have here is Chase Spillman. And Ron Langen. And Don Spillman. Noah Massey. And Angela Massey. Everyone give them a round of applause. Thank you for your work. And we have a couple of students from Mrs. Loy's advisory, and they are Maggie Haw and Eva Hansen. If you would come up, please. These young ladies have already received their certificates, but we'll give you the one for the advisory students. Give them a round of applause. Okay. And we have a certificate for the U.S. Bank employees. And their representative is Selena Dyer. She organizes this every year. And so we would like her to take the certificates to all of the U.S. Bank employees. Thanks for your help. Now we have some local favorites. We have Dwight and Deb Dolman. We have a certificate for them. So if you'd come up, Dwight. Yes, and thank Deb too. We have a certificate for Andy Morris. Thank you, Andy. Also, one of our longtime volunteers is Nancy Emanuel, and she's helping this evening. We have a certificate for Matt Dalby and his son Spencer. And Spencer's here, yay! At the same council meeting. Yeah, I think Spencer worked hard. We also have a certificate for Holly Berg. We have a certificate for Alliant Energy for all their volunteers, if you'd come up. That's this one. There we go.
Chris, thank you for your work and thanks for all that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a certificate for the Main Street group. So I see Fred in the audience. I think it's an ongoing passion to keep things cleaned up downtown. Thank you, Fred. And we have a certificate for TPA. Ken Venables is going to accept that. This is a group that throughout the year, I think, makes sure that things keep cleaned up.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate all you do.
And I was reminded that Fire Chief Tony Miller and Skip Stevens are both TPA members, and they helped with the cleanup. And I apologize if there's anyone I've missed. Get in touch with us at room 204, and we'll make sure that you get a certificate. Thank you very much. We couldn't do it without you.
Well, Andy, I'll turn this back to you then.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, then going back to the items that are listed on the itinerary, the very first one I want to mention is the Hometown Rewards meeting. As you may recall from previous meetings, we've discussed the work that has gone on with Hometown Rewards and Alliant Energy, identifying certain energy savings. Their next meeting will actually be tomorrow. I have that down in my calendar. I'll ask Councilwoman Berg to help me out on this one, but I believe that's at Area 15, and those are at 5:30.
4:30?
4:30, even sooner. 4:30, and we will begin at that point, start identifying some of the baselines, but then those meetings will continue throughout the summer. There's a park board meeting at 4:30 p.m. That is on the 12th of June. You will see that listed. The new city website launched. I want to put this in perspective a little bit. I provided correspondence with council as to where we are on that. The city's website actually was launched yesterday. That was done. We're still working through, quite frankly, some administrative issues. I've had conversations with the mayor and members of council about the new city logo migrating to the O with the exclamation point, as opposed to what we have right now, working with the Hill Productions actually and some other folks to try and complete that and get that done. We did pay an invoice today for, I think, a grand total of $75. It's just a situation of this thing moving forward, but it has been launched. Please look that over. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Certainly if there's any items on there that you have issues with. The next item you see listed is discuss Fly Ottumwa. As some of the council members may recall, this is a topic of conversation I've listed in some of my weekly reports and have attended some of the airport board meetings, certainly the mayor, and I think we have representatives of the committee with us here this evening as well. The event is slated for this summer. There are some items, administrative items, that we do need to work through, but I just want to spell out a couple of items. First of all, what we're asking for at this point from council is, and again, you can't vote on this, so just head nods or quite frankly, speak from your microphones and tell us what you like or don't like. One would be permitting the event, not sponsoring the event, but to the extent the city would permit this event. That's an item that we would like for the elected representatives to consider. In addition to that, if we were to move forward on that, then Joni Keith, our city attorney, would work to draft that permit. And then finally, we need to meet with some of the representatives of obviously the Airport Advisory Board, the LLC that is working in tandem with the airport board for this event that is coming up this summer. So with that, Mayor, I will open it up for questions and comments. Certainly, Attorney Keith can speak to this as well.
Okay. Joni, do you want to make any comments? Are there any questions from council members?
I just might add that what we're looking at is to have a meeting with our LLC, a great group of volunteers that are willing to put forth this event. We'll have a meeting, we'll put together an agreement, kind of spell out responsibilities for the city and for the group. And then I would also ask one or two members of the airport advisory group to meet with this group as well, and then put something together, bring it before the airport advisory committee. And if they approve it, then I'll bring it to council for council's approval. But that's kind of the steps that we're looking at. But I think the next step is we really need to determine, is this going to be permitted on our airport property, which is, overseen, regulated and obligated with the FAA.
Correct. Okay. Mayor, I'll
Any-
turn back over to you. If any council members have questions or
Any
comments.
questions or comments that?
Again, as soon as we get
individuals
feedback then from council, we would, all items we need, we would bring a permit forward. And I don't know, only whether that would be something as simple as a MOU memorandum of understanding or something, but an item certainly that would give us the ability to move forward on this project.
want to make? Okay, if there's no questions, I guess we'll give you a chance to discuss things with Andy and Joni, and then we can work with the LLC committee and come up with an agreement that spells out the terms of what we're paying attention to. Obviously, the council wants to be sure that we have the appropriate coverage and liability guarantees that we would with any sponsored event or permitted event. Okay, okay.
Mayor, one last item. This was one that I scribbled in, and it relates to construction notices. As Larry Seals, the Public Works Director, and Holly Berg, councilperson, in addition to myself and Brad Grief, we've had some, well, actually, Fred Zesiger has worked on this one. I apologize. In drafting, quite frankly, a policy that speaks to notices on construction. When the city undertakes construction projects, we do a very good job of that, I would argue. That sounds biased, of course. The problem is they're not memorialized very well at all in the code. In fact, if you read into the code regarding notices for construction projects, they're usually between a contractor and then those folks in that particular neighborhood. We need to have one that's more centric and speaks to the city. I put together a draft of that. I don't believe I've sent that out just yet. I will send that out tomorrow, and want to make sure we get feedback from everyone as it relates to notifying folks. And please, if you have questions, comments, augmentations, let me know. But I think I've incorporated those areas that staff viewed as appropriate, and also city council.
Good. That's an area that City Hall is getting a number of phone calls about, so this is very timely, and I'm glad to see that we're going to have a policy directive, so we'll be consistent about doing that. And we certainly want to be sympathetic to our business owners, the small businesses that are struggling when we do the construction, and sometimes there just isn't a good way to get that done. You have to do the infrastructure first, and then we end up going from building front to building front with sidewalks and pavement, and it does make it difficult. So we are sensitive, and I would encourage you to tell your friends and constituents to continue to visit those places, even though it may be a little more difficult to get there. There will be access to most of the businesses, and we want to see them continue. So glad that that's going to be coming back to us. Anything else, Andy?
No, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, let's move to item G then. We really already took care of item F, the certificate. Okay, you want the identification of any citizen. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk about a particular item on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move ahead to item G then. Is there
You probably don't want to talk about songs. Gene North is down in on top.
okay?
And that's whatever you deal with your turning streets out and stuff. Is that something that we can talk to you guys about? Or?
Why don't we do that under an item on the public later on in the agenda, if you don't mind? We'll call you up and have you give your comments then. Okay? All right. Yep.
This is a time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the sale of city-owned property located at 244 South Davis.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. 244 South Davis is a placarded house, and the city accepted sealed bids until 2 o'clock, May 29th. And we received one bid. It was from Blackbird Investments, and they bid $900. In conversation with them, it appears that they intend to demolish the house and build a new one in its place.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that wants to address that item. Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 146, 2018, accepting the offer and approving the sale of city-owned property located at 244 South Davis to Blackbird Investments for the sum of $900. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 146, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the beach renovations Phase 3, Contracts A, B, C, and D, Project 2018.
Good evening, Gene. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This project consists of separate contracts to address Phase 3 for required renovations at the beach at Tumwa located at 101 Church Street. Contract A will consist of concrete decking replacement around the wave pool, including concrete demolition and horizontal concrete placement. Concrete B is for remodeling interior office spaces, including selective demolition, new and existing door replacement, gypsum wall repairs, new ceiling tile, flooring, painting, new LED lighting, and selective plumbing and electrical repairs. Contract C will consist of masonry restoration, caulking of random moving cracks and control joints, selective masonry repairs found throughout the entire exterior of the indoor pool facility. Contract D will consist of select electrical repairs, replacing 2 motor control centers and switches for the indoor and outdoor pools. Bids will be received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on June 27, 2018. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented at the City Council meeting on July 17, 2018. Construction on this project is expected to start September 4th, 2018, and shall be completed by May 17th, 2019. The engineer's opinion of cost, contract A, concrete repairs, $185,000. Contract B, remodeling the office, $80,000. Contract C, masonry repairs, $77,000. And contract D, electrical repairs, $75,000. So the total Phase 3 costs, including those cost estimates, will be $544,099.62.
Okay. Thank you, Gene. Are there, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that wants to address this, do you want to do a overhead? Dwight, go ahead then.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this is a 4-phase project. We are starting in Phase 3 for this section of renovation. Gene had already talked about the 4 contracts. Get a little bit more detail into each one. Contract A is the concrete repairs. And this is an aerial that is basically showing you the last of the concrete repairs that we have scheduled. This area of decking there is going to get replaced, extends on over to those shade structures. And then there's 2 areas here and another one over here that gets finished up beside the wave pool. And then out in front of the facility, we have some sidewalk repairs that are going to be included. Now, the pictures really don't give you the full idea of how bad some of these areas are, but there's a lot of displacement in the individual sidewalk here, and that's just differential settlement and shifting of the concrete panels, and it's more of a liability for kids running along these things than anything. Structurally, it's okay. It's just that we've got that liability of the shifting of the panels. And here again is the decking where you've got the corners of the joints have been broken out. Up here, that joint there is deteriorated. That's pretty typical throughout that entire decking area that I showed you by the wave pool. These are the 2 concrete steps that go up to that area above the filter building. These are non-compliant steps. We've actually have a problem with settlement. They've settled down about 4 to 6 inches. You can kind of see the caulk line there from where they were before. But the rise and the tread on these steps don't comply with code. So they're non-compliant. We will be taking those out. We'll be putting new steps in. That will actually create maybe a nicer area for that up there above the filter building for possible parties and such. The office remodeling, this is going to occur just in the area where the off the lobby area and include portions of the kitchen. This electrical fans up there and these down there. Ideally, they're used so that you can have that air curtain close off that window to keep insects from coming into the kitchen area. They currently don't use those because they make too much noise. So we'll get those replaced and get those operational again, and that's going to include improve the cleanliness of the kitchen area. Ceiling area is going to get replaced. The lights, just like what we did out in the lobby area, we're going to be changing those out to LEDs. Here's the door to the party room. That door was actually, somebody tried to break into it. We're going to be replacing all the doors in the offices with hollow metal doors and frames. They're a more rigid door. They'll stand up to more abuse. It'll make the office areas more secure. You can also see how stained this carpet is. We'll be going through and replacing all the carpeting. Walls will get repainted, and I mentioned that the ceiling and the lights will get replaced. This is in Gene's office. Every time I go in there, I think the ceiling is falling down, and it looks like it is. How it's staying up there, I don't know. In the party room, you can see this too. That ceiling is in desperate need of replacement. Also out in the entrance area, the ceiling area, we're going to take that, those ceiling tiles completely out. We're going to go back with an exterior gypsum board system and replace that. That same type of system, we're going to go into the locker rooms in the men and women's ceiling, take out the old acoustical ceiling and replace it with that gypsum board system. Contract C is going to be the tuck pointing of the outside of the building. It's another issue where the photographs don't really tell you the full story of what's all going on in the outside of this building. But you can kind of see all these squiggly lines that I have on these plans. That designates or denotes random cracks that are in the exterior of this building. Generally, on masonry building, you include control joints every 10 to 15 feet. There are very few in the exterior here. So the masonry is going to find the weakened point, and that's where it's going to crack. And we have that all around the outside of this building. So we're going to fix all those so that they're routed out and caulked and sealed. And we're also going to be doing selective tuck pointing throughout the entire outside of it so that we can make it back to being a waterproof building. You can see here we've got water stains all around here. After they get done, that'll all be sandblasted, water blasted off. We'll be adding a water repellent. And I wanted to mention too that one of the ways we can tell that that masonry is leaking so bad is here in the lobby area along this wall line. You can see the water stains in the ceiling. And that's because when the wind-driven rain occurs against that wall, it's hitting it, working its way inside and then dropping down inside the facility. So once we get that tuck pointed and get the water repellent put on there, that's going to improve the resiliency of that wall surface, and I expect these water spots to go away. Contract D is some motor control centers that we want to replace. You can see how much corrosion that we have on this one. This is out in the filter building, and the outside is, the inside is far worse than the outside. But these motor control centers are the lifeblood of the beach. And if they were going to go down, then we would really have some problems. So we have this one that's in the filter building that controls the wave pumps and the wave pool equipment. This other one is in the indoor pool facility. And this one controls all the pumps that are inside for the indoor pool as well. So those going to be comprised that electrical contract. So as Gene mentioned, the estimate on all these together is $417,000. We do have $700,000 available for phase 3. If you recall, we've already started 6 requests for proposals, 5 of which are done. We still have the sound system that's still outstanding. Now that this is out to bid, we're going to concentrate on that sound system and get a request for proposal put together for that, so that hopefully when the season's over with, that contract will be in place, ready to take that project on.
Any questions for Dwight? Thank you. That's a good overview, and appreciate seeing the pictures. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the audience that wants to address this item, now's the time to speak. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 149, 2018, approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the beach renovations Phase 3, contracts A, B, C, and D, project 2018. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 149, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strebe? Oh, sorry.
Any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you, Gene.
Resolution number 143, 2018, enter in consulting agreement with Confluence for the City of Ottumwa 2018 Comprehensive Plan. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 143, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. As mentioned, the resolution is for contracting with Confluence for the performance of our upcoming comprehensive plan effort. I think we've all seen the numbers, but they are 148.5 for our base contract. We also have a strategic planning initiative in there for $9,000 as an addition, and we are capping our reimbursables at 5% of the overall base contract of 148.5. But I would entertain any questions that members may have.
Any questions for Kevin? Okay. All right, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Resolution number 147, 2018, fixing an amount for abating a nuisance against certain properties in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 147, 2018.
Is there a motion?
I would move to approve Resolution 147, 2018 with the exclusion of the property located at 1104 North Elm Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Any discussion? Jody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're removing 1104 North Elm because they came in and paid their bill today before this was brought to the City Council. So we have 7 properties on this resolution where the city abated nuisances at these properties. We billed the property owners, and then these are the costs that remain unpaid, a total of $3,522.63.
Any questions for Jody? Pretty straightforward, okay. Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Resolution number 148, 2018, support and financial commitment for the Main Street program. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 148, 2018.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Who's going to? Joni?
Well, I'll just cover briefly. It is a contract. The $20,000 is something the city appropriates in the general fund budget. As you note, it's listed as a budgeted item. I'm not going to read through the entire staff summary of the discussion, but should you have any questions, we'll be happy to entertain those.
This is basically a program agreement with Main Street and is required by the Main Street of Iowa. So, okay. Any questions for either Andy or Joni? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 150, 2018, authorizing the mayor to execute 2 easement agreements for construction and maintenance of public improvements for the Wapello Street and Albia Road roundabout project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 150, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, Larry, you have the floor and we'll have some reports and discussion.
This is the second phase of the roundabout projects. Construction on phase 1 started April 2nd, with phase 2 having a late start date of June 18th, 2018. The city was awarded $500,000 in Traffic Safety Improvement Program funds grant, which was approved at the July 18th, 2000 council meeting. Temporary easements are needed for the right-of-way access and over, under, and through and across the land for the purpose of constructing, reconstructing, or repairing and maintaining the public improvement. We're asking for approval of the easements, which property owners have reviewed, agreed to, and signed.
Are there questions for Larry about this? Are you going to do a? Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
No.
Councilmember Rowe?
No.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Resolution number 153, 2018, approving the planning and design loan application for a state revolving fund SRF loan for CSO Phase 8 sewer separation project and authorizing the mayor to sign. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 153, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This is one of the required steps in the process to cure SRF funding for the Phase 8 Blake's Branch Sewer Separation Project. The purpose of this project is to prevent untreated wastewater from being released into the environment, prevent basement backups, and reduce the influence of stormwater on the sanitary system. To safely and reliably operate this portion of the city's wastewater collection system for at least 20 years. The design life of this stuff is actually closer to 80. This project is for the 8th phase of a 10-phase project, which are the projects listed within our compliance schedule that we entered into with EPA and DNR. Each phase is broken down into divisions as needed for funding and construction sequencing. The design and planning loan will be used for Division 2, 3, and 4. It is a 0% interest loan during the process and carries for 3 years. And then 1 year after construction completion, you have to start paying it back or rolled into the construction loan.
Questions for Larry? Big project. Hearing no questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 154, 2018, approving the professional services agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Veenstra and Kim Incorporated for professional services during the design and construction of CSO Phase 8 Division 1 Blake's Branch. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 154, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Larry? We have members of the B&K in the audience too.
We do. We did prepare a small drone flight, kind of show the preliminary alignment of where this is going, and then we can go ahead and process it. We do have some comments from our project managers from V&K. It basically, this wasn't really laid out real well in a 2D map. We wanted to show you kind of 3D. We're starting at the treatment plant. Basically, the line will come into that building on your left, which is the headworks, parallel pretty much the power line system here, and then turn and kind of follow parallel with the railroad and up to the overpass on the 34 section. You can kind of see where there's an existing maintenance road. The line will roughly run down that alignment, probably just slightly to the north, depending on right-of-ways and existing utilities. Right here is the old May Street bridge crossing that was removed by the railroad some years ago. We think that we will be crossing through here. We did have some agreements with the railroad at the time of the closure. We did put in a casing. I'm not sure that'll be large enough. But we do have some preliminary work done. Then we're looking at, we're not really sure at this time. Ideally, you would go in the lowest portion of your run, depending on what we have and the depth of the line. Once the design is completed, it will either run down this alley or down Maple Street. Just kind of depends on final design. A lot of that will just depend. The company is planning on starting survey in July, and this will develop as we move along. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that area. This is one of the areas that we'll have to work on getting a final solution of where we'll cut through in order to maintain access, reduce the number of infrastructure. One of the things we'll try to do is save some of this new pavement. We'll to be determined exactly where we'll go. Again, that's going to really determine on the final depth of that sewer. The depth will determine how wide our trench is and how we construct. We are going to, from somewhere in this point west, go down this right away. We don't know if we'll be to one edge or the other or right down the middle at this time. It'll be very similar to what we did on Main Street, starting at McLean West. I'm gonna assume that the depth is very similar at that intersection. We have to go all the way up to Birch. Some of the stuff that we've started initial conversations is access to these major businesses, since they do a lot of heavy construction, manufacturing of tanks. We'll have to work with them on how we stage their product in and out. Ultimately, we end up here toward Birch Street. That's where we'll connect, and the Division 2 of the Phase 8 starts and heads north. And again, this is planned for a early spring construction start date of 2020, all pending permits and what other features. We'll have to see what we have for water main, gas main, all that stuff will start to be gathered up in the next few months and over the next year and a half for easement right away. Some of the stuff that we led into at the work session. We just kind of wanted to give everybody a visual of where this project actually is going to lay.
Okay. Any questions for Larry? That's a good overhead, and again, want to stress that this is something that's required by our compliance agreement, so we really don't have a choice in doing this.
And again, I know that December 31st of 2025 seems like a long ways off. It's really not. We anticipate this project to be a minimum of 3, but most likely 4 different projects up through getting the backbone developed will be also Phase 2 and 3. The Division 4 of this Phase 8 will be all the side streets and how we coordinate going up through that area to do the actual separation. I do want to point out there's 7,700 feet from the plant up to Birch. The total compensation for this contract is $596,000, and the construction estimate to date is $5,500,000 for this section. I'll let Randy say a few things.
Good evening, Randy Johnson with Feenstra & Kim. One thing I wanted to add also to Larry's discussion point is It also includes about 2,300 lineal feet of storm drain. So we want to kind of collect and capture some of the stuff that we're taking apart on the sewer along Main Street close to Iowa and bring it back towards Blake's Branch. I wanted to make sure we captured that at this time. Since we got the street open, we might as well take advantage of that to grab that. I'd like to just add that V&K has been working with the city of Ottumwa since 2004. This is phase 8 of, I believe, 10 phases, right? So we're getting to the end, but this is one of the big tasks at hand for the city of Ottumwa. Like Larry was saying, we're going to chop it up into 4 divisions, more easily workable chunks to digest, and also to allow, I guess, more competition with the contractors. And really, when you look through our contract, we do have a few milestones because we're really going to have some discussions back and forth with city staff in regards to how our layout is. So we want to make sure we don't just present you final drawings. We want to make sure everybody's in agreement with, okay, the 35% phase, here's what we're thinking, here's what surveys telling us, here's what utilities we found. We'll move to a 65% and 95, and like Larry was saying, January of 2020, we want to have final bid ready documents so that we can start the procurement process.
Mr. Mayor, I had just one question. Larry, to go to a point that you mentioned previously, just out of curiosity, as you've indicated, there are more than a couple of instances where this goes on real estate, on people's property. It's difficult to forecast, but do we anticipate any instances where we may have to obtain easements from folks?
I'm sure we'll have to get some easements depending on the final route. Again, that has to do with the depth and what's in ground. Sometimes it's more affordable to go out and get easements than it is to have either ourselves relocate, change the alignment, or have other utilities relocate. So that's all going to be balanced as information comes in. I do want to go back to the point on the storm, and it's been a few months since we did the original presentation. What we're doing is picking up a lot of the area that has been separated but recombined, and we're going to take it over to Blake's Branch. That'll reduce the flow and the volume that's going to the current Haines Street, Orchard Street area. So we'll be solving a couple problems at the same time from a volume.
And Mr. Mayor, just follow up on that. My question, I probably should have been more specific on that, Larry, is to the extent that we do have to do that, is there a fund, or is there a budget line item or items that we would draw from if that were the case?
That will also be included. This is going to be a TIF funded project, which the debt service will come from that. I mean, we'll have to bond it and then do debt service from TIF. That will be included, whatever the costs are estimated for, not only the survey work required to do your service plat, but also the value of. We'll have to have an appraisal company come in and actually establish that based on residential property or commercial property. That will all be rolled into part of the design.
I see. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions? Good chance to have our project engineer here. Any other specifics? It's a major project, and we appreciate you've got a good history of working with the city and know our ins and outs, and there's a hidden value there that we don't always appreciate.
Well, and part of that is one of the initial stages that we had to do early on was a complete study of the system that included mapping and identifying material types. V&K originally had that contract. That's been some years ago, but that information will be used in conjunction with field information they actually gather. So it only makes sense. It's hard to change at this point.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to add one thing, Mayor.
Todd, go ahead.
Just on behalf of Vince and Kim, Randy, and myself, we appreciate the opportunity to continue to work for you folks. It's been a pleasure over the last several years, and we just appreciate you putting your faith in us to on another successful project. So appreciate it.
Good. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 155, 2018, award the contract for the Bridgeview Center Power Distribution Improvements Project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 155, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Dwight, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This project is going to improve the power distribution throughout the Expo Center, including new conduit, conductors, and receptacles. This will replace the failed underground electrical system. All the work will be overhead in the roof trusses. Bids were received and opened by the city on May 30th, 2018 at 2 p.m. The project was advertised on the city's and Master Builder's website. 3 sets of plans were either sent out or downloaded from the city's website, and 2 bids were received. The low bidder is Van Manen Electric of Newton, Iowa, in the amount of $67,592. The project is funded with $97,000 of 2017 CIP funds, and staff is recommending that we award to Van Manen.
Any questions for Dwight? I'm sure Dwight, if other people don't have a question, I know we were talking about the solar panels on the roof, and this will add some additional weight to that girder system in the interior of the building.
Negligible.
That's all been taken into account, so we're not creating a problem down the road.
Shouldn't.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Mark.
While this is being installed, this isn't going to in any way compromise Bridgeview Center's ability to put on any shows or anything, is it?
No, in fact, and Scott can speak to this, this is actually going to enhance their abilities because they'll be able to add lighting to every place in that ceiling structure of the Expo Center.
I was specifically talking during the construction phase. This isn't going to hamper.
No, we're going to schedule it so it avoids all those conflicts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I just had a quick one,
Sure.
and it's not really a question, it's just more of an observation. The engineer's opinion of cost is significantly higher than the bid, which is good. But I was just wondering what the difference is there. Did something change in the design or how you're going to do it, or is it still the way you planned and gave us on that presentation?
Well, I think a lot of it goes towards my lack of experience estimating electrical types of projects like this. If you look in the plan holders or in the bid tabulation, Winger was just a few $1,000s under my number. But still, I'll admit, I don't work with electricity every day, so my experience estimating can be a little bit short. And so when that occurs, I usually stay on the conservative side.
Well, either way, it looks good. It's nice to see that. Thanks, Dwight.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 157, 2018, waiving the right of review for Atumwa East Substation subdivision. Recommendation, pass and adopt Resolution 157, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Kevin. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. This subdivision is located in the within the 1 mile extraterritorial area around our city that we control, if you will. And it's basically for Alliant Energy to set up a substation on a piece of property that's being pieced off of a farm property adjacent to where a substation does presently exist. I think it's TCI or ITC, I believe it is, that has a substation there now. So, and that's why I'm making the recommendation that we waive our right of review on this subdivision because, of course, we have good interest in it being constructed. More power is better power, and similar uses are taking place already in that adjacent area. So I will entertain any questions that any members may have.
Any questions for Kevin? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Ordinance number 3143, 2018, amending Chapter 32, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 9, temporary use of sidewalks by repealing Sections 32-275 and 32-276 and inserting new Sections 32-275 and 32-276 of the Municipal Code of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation, pass the first consideration of ordinance number 3143, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Joni? Joni, you going to make any comments? Pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. We just needed to update this code section to include our C4 downtown district. And we wanted to get that done before the season ends. That's why we're recommending waiving second and third considerations. The other thing we did that I didn't put in the staff summary is we took out, there was a provision in here that said that at the end of the day, the owners of the property where this they're putting their sidewalk cafes would be required to bring their stuff inside at night. And we thought really that needed to be at their discretion. If they felt they needed to bring it in, they could. If they didn't wanted to leave it out and felt comfortable doing it, then they could. So that's the only other thing that's in here.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Waive the second and third consideration, pass and adopt ordinance number 3143, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, pretty clear on that. Take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Pass and adopt resolution number 142, 2018, setting the sidewalk cafe permit fee. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 142, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3144, 2018, amending Chapter 25, Public Offenses of the Municipal Code of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa, by repealing Sections 25-110 of Chapter 25 and enacting a substitute in lieu thereof relative to permitting the use of fireworks. Recommendation, pass the first consideration of ordinance number 3144, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Your Honor, I'd like to offer a alternative motion
Okay.
to change the dates for allowing fireworks from the dates presented to only on July 4th, the hours from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., and strike the December through January fireworks allowance.
Okay, so that's Mark's motion. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Victor is seconding. Okay. All right, any discussion?
I'd just like to make a few comments.
Certainly.
When this recommendation came about, I was surprised. I hope I'm not the only one from the committee that got together. You know, when the Airport Advisory Board makes recommendations to extend a runway, and that's in the best interest of the city and businesses and our citizens, you know, we're all for that. When the Traffic Safety Committee makes recommendations, it's in the best interest of the safety of our citizens. But when there's a recommendation to extend the number of days that fireworks are allowed to be let off in our city, it sort of makes me scratch my head. We had lengthy discussions last year, and we gave it a try. You know, I think it was a liberal try of the amount of time of 10 days. And after that happened, we had veterans in here who suffered from PTSD, and we had numerous citizens that were complaining about how it upset their households and children and pets. And it overextends and unnecessarily inundates our critical services departments, our police officers and fire department with calls and extra work that in our current landscape they just don't need. So I wonder what the benefits of that recommendation are. I'm kind of confused about that, but I've never said that I've been opposed to letting off fireworks, but I wanted to significantly limit the number of days that they were allowed to be let off. And this recommendation seems to miss that mark by a far sight.
Thank you for your comments. Any other? Mark, go ahead.
You know, when this packet was put out last week and subsequently published in the paper, I believe on Saturday, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only council member that received a myriad of calls from the public voicing their concerns about the ordinance that is sitting in front of us. And to the volume, at least that I've received personally, it makes it impossible to ignore that. And I would echo Councilman Streby's comments, and there is, in my mind, a little bit of confusion as to after we voted last June to do the fireworks and voiced our concerns with maybe there might need to be some revisitation of that at some point down the road, to in December when we had this discussion again revolving around the New Year's celebration. And I thought, at least personally, that we made it fairly clear that we were a little bit concerned about the length of time that we were allowing fireworks to be let off, and then to be given this presentation tonight, which seems to be much more liberal than what we had in prior sessions. I'm with Councilman Strebe. I'm rather perplexed as to why this has been presented in this manner to us. But you know, I don't know. I fear that you know, while the rest of the state of Iowa has moved to either out and out ban the lighting of fireworks in their communities are extremely limited, we would be going the opposite direction and becoming more liberal on that policy. I'm not sure is the best approach that we could do. You know, we already have a thin police force. We already have a fire department that's maxed out on what they're doing, and to go ahead and increase the possibility that there could be a severe problem because we as a council decided to make this liberal policy, it doesn't seem wise to me. And you know, I look to the state of Missouri, who has had fireworks allowed in their state for some time. Most of their communities, I'm sure Administrator Morris can even attest to this. You know, some of the urban areas in Missouri, they don't allow it except for on the 4th of July. So again, I'm confused as to why we would turn tail and run the opposite direction on that.
Anybody other comments, or Chief, would you?
I would like to make a couple comments. Part of the reasoning behind this is, if you remember last year on May 30th, when we brought this to council, there was going to be a meeting after December 8th. We had a meeting in Des Moines, and we did not know what they were going to do. I personally went to that meeting, and the first thing they were going to do was they were going to change the law to make it less safe for Iowans. Minors would be able to sell fireworks, minors would be able to purchase fireworks, and a few other things would have made it less safe. What eventually happened is when January rolled around, they went to legislative session and you didn't hear nothing about fireworks. The reason you didn't hear anything about fireworks, and I'll be the first to say this, there's between 20 and 25 cities I know that's already banned fireworks or reduced the hours. But the reasoning was they thought that if they'd bring something up to make the fireworks less safe, that they would have enough votes to completely do away with fireworks and they'd be illegal again. That's part of the reasoning behind this. I'll be the first to admit I was on that committee that made this recommendation. However, we had a lot of good discussion, a lot of good conversation. That's why it came to the council as it did. We may be on the other side of this. Like I said, the committee may have been on the other side of this, but they had good intent on this. And with not knowing what the law was going to do, and then they didn't do anything, that's where we are here today.
I was present for part of the meeting, not the entire meeting, and it was a very vigorous discussion, some give and take, and not a lot of agreement. I think, Chief, you did a nice job of keeping that running smoothly, and there were a couple of other motions that were defeated. So this was the result of the committee, and Chief Miller made it very clear that the final decision is up to the council. It's not the committee. It's a recommendation. So at this point, what you have, and I think the motion that was made is certainly appropriate. Are there other questions or comments?
Well, just a comment. I probably received more calls and talked to more people on this issue than I have in anything since I've been on this council. And the vast majority wanted to ban them almost altogether. So I think this is a compromise, but keep in mind, don't get the idea you're not going to hear any fireworks on days other than this, because it's not going to happen. There's going to be a lot of fireworks. Police department, they've had 200 employees couldn't keep up with the calls that they get. So there's still going to be fireworks. I don't care which way we go, but I think I'm in agreement with what Councilman Rowe proposed. Thank you.
Yeah, I just offer a couple quick comments. I know we don't drag this meeting out or this issue out, but it drives me insane. It just perplexed at the mentality of our state legislators when they would think it's okay to sell fireworks to young kids. I mean, we've all been down there. We've been young teenagers. We've been young, and the rationale behind that just I can't get my head around. So I've said my piece on that. I think we ought to be proud of the fact that we're not one of the cities in Iowa that have banned them outright. I mean, we know we've got people in the community that want to do it. I certainly have no problem with it. I did it last year, and so I think we've come up with something with this amendment that and I agree with that amendment too. I wanted a shorter time period, but those folks are allowed to shoot them off. At the same time, Councilman Stevens said there's also 75% of the other folks in Ottumwa that don't want it. So. Being real liberal with the policy just didn't work for everybody. And I think one of the things we have to do as a council is to look, and many people may not like this, but we have 25,000 people living in our community. And, unfortunately, we can't just give that 10,000 folks, roughly in the community what they want all the time. We have to think of the other part of the community that doesn't. And I think this is a good compromise. We're kind of in new territory here. We gave it a shot for a year. I didn't see a whole lot of issues come out of it. I didn't hear a whole lot of negativity about it, other than the fact that, it went nonstop day after day. And so I think it's a good compromise. I'm certainly satisfied with July 4th, with Councilmember Rowe's proposal. Sometimes I just have to wonder why our legislators come up with some of the ideas they do. But I think this works for our community. At least we're able to make these local decisions locally. And, it can be changed in the future if other people or councils feel appropriate. Thanks for your work, Chief.
I will pre-warn you right now, sure as I'm standing here, the 4th of July this year is on a Wednesday. There's probably a pretty good chance that you're going to have fireworks shot from that Friday, the Friday before for the 4th until the following weekend, because you're going to have about 8 or 9 days there where people may be shooting off fireworks on a consistent basis.
And recourse is, Chief, you may want to enter into this too, but if people call, you're going to respond. You had triple, as I recall, the number of last year than you had previously. So
we had complaints of fireworks being shot last night. So this is nothing new. In general, if you make this just on the July 4th, 80% of the people in town are probably going to follow the law. It might be a little bit of a challenge because we're going to hear a lot of, well, last year we shot them, whatever. So we'll hear a lot of that. But it's like anything that most of our laws, 70 to 80% of the people are going to follow the law. The other 20 to 30% aren't, and they're going to go ahead and shoot the fireworks. Of that 20 or 30%, we'll get a complaint on. All we have to do is drive through the neighborhood, and a large percentage of those people will not shoot any more fireworks. We may have to knock on a door. Of those people, probably 80% are going to call it a night. All we have to do is pull up and say, hey, let's call it a night. They will. It's a small percentage of people that we may have to write a citation to. So it's like that with anything. 70 to 80% of our traffic tickets, our parking tickets, our red speed tickets are paid. You're always going to have that 20 to 30% that don't follow the law. So I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Holly?
I just try not to reiterate everything that's already been said, but I appreciate Chief Miller and the committee's work on it. But I also received a lot of phone calls not wanting this to be extended, and no one wanted to compromise a middle ground. They all wanted it to just be banned. So in my mind, the compromise in the community is doing, that shortened time. Though I know we're not going to, pretty much it's not going to please anyone, because there's either don't want them at all or want them as long as possible. But I think the only thing we can do as a council is try to meet somewhere in the middle there.
Very good. And I would concur. I had more phone calls about this issue recently than anything I can remember in recent past. So it's a hot topic, no pun intended.
Literally.
Yeah. Okay, if there are any other comments or questions, let's take the roll and would you read the motion as it is so that we are clear that we're changing it?
Okay, so read it.
The motion is to
Motion to change the dates from July 4th from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and strike the dates from December to January. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what I have. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
5-0, thank you. Item B.
Waive the second and third consideration, pass and adopt ordinance number 3144, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second?
Second.
Mark? Okay. Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
At this time, I think it'd be appropriate to have the comments from the public on any item, and we had a gentleman that wanted to speak, so if you'd come to the microphone, identify yourself and
Hi there, Mayor Lazio. This is my wife Inez. I'm Gene Miller. We have now and then thrift and pawn shop down on 510 East Main. As you know, we're involved in the East Main project down here. And we keep getting told that we're going to be accommodated. People's going to take care of us. We're going to be able to get you in and out. But every time that something happens, I'm told it's not going to work. The project was to be in 3 different sections. The one section was supposed to be the bridge out here. The next section was supposed to be the next block. Then the third section was supposed to be our block. Well, now that they're behind, not working, it's all become where they want to do the whole thing. Now the water line from down below, they want to put a new valve in. Well, it was supposed to go on the corner of, what is that street there? College Street and East Main. Well, then the City Waterworks decides they're going to move it up by Shims. So they want to dig a ditch in front of our house, or in front of our shop until, so they can replace the pipe. So we asked the contractor, okay, you can dig the ditch, get it done. Can you put gravel in front of our building or in front of our driveway? Well, we're losing $4,000 a month. He tells me, do you have any idea how much gravel costs? Is that accommodating anybody? No. I'm handicapped. I can't get in and out of my shop. How are people going to be able to shop in my shop if they can't get in and out?
okay, and I understand, Larry, you might want to respond to this, that we have been having some contractor meetings and there have been different versions of what's going to be done.
Mike, the city engineer, the plot guy. The contractor you have doing his job, not so much.
Okay, thank you.
The project was originally designed after meeting with all the business owners, fairly close to what he described on the staging. There was a request from the contractor, could he change the staging to make his pavements a longer run? That's fairly standard from a contracting standpoint. We originally had told him only if we could get all the business owners in agreement. That didn't happen, so it has to go back to the original let staging project. What he's describing today is kind of a new development where they want to go on up, change where the main goes as far as the valve. They will have to fill the trench. There will be a short time period that the trench would be open. They will put gravel back on. It'd be a moving operation. That's not uncommon to go to a point where you can install a water main. You've got to disinfect it. You've got to cook it for about 7 days, and then they've got to switch services over to the new one before they abandon the old one. The sidewalk would be open the entire time, but again, the staging is not going to change from what the original let plan was, where we had all our public input meetings. I will talk to them. Sometimes a contractor doesn't relay if it's the crews in, because a lot of times it's a sub to the general. I want to talk to him. There's no way they're going to do a water main, leave the trench open, but they would have to open it as they go by. They would compact the soil back in up to the subgrade, and they would have to gravel it temporarily and to allow them to go up to the next stage. That's something that was discussed. I don't know when they discussed it originally. To me, it was today.
The last 2 days we discussed that. I went to the so-called meeting this morning.
Sure.
Which wasn't much of a meeting. And what he told me was, here's what he told me was, he said, okay, well, we can throw gravel on that hole for you, but it don't much matter because in 2 days we're going to rip your street out anyway.
Again, I think sometimes the field staff for some of the contractors might not necessarily be as political as they need to be, and also might not actually know what's going on from time to time. There's a lot of discussions of different options on any project. It still has to finally be approved by our office before they can change staging or anything else. So some of this is, it would be not accurate according to what I received this morning.
Well, and I know from being up in that neighborhood and talking with Mike, our inspector, there were different versions of the story about what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. And a business across the street from Miller's were also saying the same thing. So it's I think a miscommunication that needs to be, and perhaps you and Mike or you and Chad, whoever, will have to get with a contractor and be clear about what plans we're following.
The plan of how it's going to happen is clear. I think that maybe they were thinking out loud and before a final decision was made is what it sounds like to me.
Last Friday he came in our shop and he asked us, it's going to be, kind of up to you guys, what happens here. Okay, so we called Tom and we talked to Tom. And then we went to the meeting this morning and the guy was real adamant about, yeah, we're going to dig the hole. We're going to put gravel in front of Johnny's driveway. But we're not doing it in front of yours. You're going to have to walk up from the street.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'll have staff get to the bottom of that. That's not how it would transpire. Again, I think there might be a little miscommunications on that. And I just want to state again for the record that the staging is going to stay the same as was let. Okay. As far as where phase 2 is going to stop. They did request, because of the moving of a valve, to go ahead and do a moving operation past the businesses, which is not uncommon, but you backfill the trench as you go and you put a rock cap on it.
And we don't have a problem with that. Not at all.
Yeah.
Good. So I think we're in agreement then. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, workers from certain crews don't necessarily. I understand, but there's a general and there's a sub, and sometimes there's a sub under that.
This guy runs around with Mike every day out there.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Gene, we appreciate your comments, and I think Larry's aware of it, and we do have a plan to have some conversation with them. So.
Well, let me go back. I want to make sure it's clear to council. It's not uncommon for a contractor, and especially a paving contractor, to try to reduce phasing out of a project. The more he can do in one stretch, of course, is more efficient for him and speeds the project up. But on this one, we spent a lot of time meeting with the business owners up front last year. We had several different meetings with the business owners. Now, we did have them spring one thing, not really spring on us, but one of the buildings that was empty become occupied. So we're going to have to do and almost add a mini phase within one phase to allow access to that business. Mayor, you and I spoke of that today when you had some questions. That's part of contracting. That's not uncommon, that you have to kind of swing with and roll with the punches on these. Again, it would be better if our local, if it's an equipment operator, whoever you spoke with, needs to be a little more prudent in his discussions with the businesses.
Okay. Well, I think the important thing is we've heard the Miller's concerns and we're going to address them, and you will take care of that in the days to come. So appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any other comments or communications for the council? Two things I would share, just informational. I think sometimes we don't recognize how hard our city staff do work, and I want to particularly comment this past weekend with the Major League Eating Contest here in town. Mike Smith, Kevin Sylvester, worked really hard together to get the Jefferson Street Viaduct open. There were some sewer issues that had to be hand dealt with and at the last minute. And when I stopped at 7:30 in the morning, they were working on them, and they got that open by 2:30 that afternoon. And with all the activity going on at Bridgeview with the dance recital and the concert and everything else, I just think they did a yeoman's job, and we want to recognize their contribution, because that's the dirty work that nobody ever sees and ever recognizes. And then the same thing happened on Saturday morning, right during the rainstorm before the eating contest. We needed to move a couple of dumpsters out of the alleyway right where the ribbon cutting was going to take place. And again, Kevin Sylvester and Jeremy Martz came without any forewarning, showed up, moved the dumpsters, and did a great job for us, cleaned it up. And that's the kind of thing that, we just don't recognize how hard they work to make things better for all of us. And as a result, we had a great day there, and the ribbon cutting in the alley, and then the contest itself. So I think hats off to our staff for the job they did. Lastly, I want to check with Andy and Holly, but I think we have a streetscape meeting scheduled for Tuesday this week. Am I correct on that?
Well, it couldn't be this week.
It's next week, Tuesday next week.
Well, look, I don't see it on my calendar. I'll look. Is it on the 12th?
There's 3 of them.
Yeah, they're going to be 7:30, 11:30, and 5:30 p.m. But that's again, the reason I make that, because it fits right in with your comments, Andy, about policy and notification, that that was done by Main Street to make the business people aware of some of the planning, and the architect will be there to get input and ideas and suggestions. So we'll certainly blast that out on our website and through media, that there is an opportunity for the public to come to those meetings. And that's why it's done 3 times. So there's a before the workday, during the workday, and at the end of the workday, so that people can get there. So I just want to be sure that everybody's aware of that. It's Tuesday, the 12th.
Right. Mr. Mayor, if I can just add briefly that you're right. There are 3 sessions. So one of the items I need to do, and in fact, I believe it is in my calendar. I'll go back and check that. One of the items we need to do is, there are 3 meetings. I don't have the resources to have 5 staff members going to all of those. So I'll be visiting with the staff members about which of those meetings they would be able to attend.
Sure. Good. And then lastly, it's I see 7:05 on the clock on the wall. Today is a primary day, and the polls are open until 9 p.m. So if anybody in the public has not voted, the polls will be open until 9 p.m. and you need to vote in your precinct. So that's all the information I have. Is there anything from any other council person?
Probably ought to take your ID to the polls too.
Thank you. You
Make
do
sure
need
you
an
get your
ID.
ID.
That's right. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Skip and Victor.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
7:02. Huh?